items on the agenda. The first item, the roll call.
Commissioner Varga,
Here.
Commissioner Marecki,
Here.
Commissioner Clark Coleman,
Here.
Commissioner Ware,
He was there.
Commissioner Ware.
Hmm.
What if she muted herself?
Commissioner Ware, are you there?
Hello.
Are you there?
Okay.
Taking roll.
This is Jewel Ware. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We're taking roll. Just wanted to make sure you were here.
Present. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Chair Anderson,
Here.
you have a quorum present.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda,
B, Chairman's remarks.
just wanted to welcome everyone back to the special committee on the criminal justice complex. And due to the pandemic, we had a long pause in construction, the construction activity. This meeting will probably primarily be a catch-up meeting to see where we stand currently and what effects that pause will have on the construction project. But anyway, Madam Clerk, I'll just ask if you'll take the next item on the agenda.
C, approval of the January 23rd, 2020 meeting minutes.
Move
Move
approval.
approval.
Thank
Support.
you. Moved by, who
Varga.
was it? Irma?
Varga.
Varga, okay. And who was second?
Supported by Jewel Ware.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Madam Clerk? All those in favor of approving the minutes of the
Aye.
January 23rd?
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Seeing none opposed, the minutes are approved from the January 23rd, 2020 meeting. And Madam Clerk, next item.
Item D1, under new business, an update from James Heath regarding the status of the criminal justice complex.
James, I'm going to let you go ahead and do that report in our
Sure.
update, and then we'll open it up for some questions.
Sure. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to all the commissioner members of the committee. It is good to be back in front of you on this issue because it means that hopefully we're getting back to some level of normalcy, which means that progress is going to be going forward. I mean, I should say we never stopped making progress on the jail, but it's certainly a welcome opportunity to kind of let you know what has been happening because as you know, I think we're of the same mind, Commissioner Anderson, that information sharing is the key to a countywide productive and successful project. And so I appreciate you restarting these meetings as well as doing what you've done to kind of keep abreast of some things as we had the shutdown. We are kind of getting back into the swing of things, not just on the project itself, but also with our reporting to your committee. And so we will have more to share with you at our next meeting. We're getting back into the groove with the information in the manner in which you would like it, especially with some of the budget matters which you have been interested in. And so I look forward to continued progress in that regard as we go forward in the next few weeks. Probably the most important thing I want to do, and something you alluded to initially, Commissioner, is introduce to you our new senior project manager from CGL, and that is Jay Shandor. And I'm going to give Jay an opportunity to introduce himself, but I want to kind of give you a little bit of a sense of his background and why we thought that it's appropriate at this point to have made a change and why it's been beneficial to us. So Jay joined us during the shutdown. So he's been on site probably about a little bit more than a month, 6 weeks now. Is that right, Jay?
I believe 5 or 6 weeks somewhere.
5 or 6 weeks, yeah. He's been with CGL for about 4 years now, but he's got 30 years of experience in construction as well as primarily in correction facilities. He's not new to the Wayne County project because he was working kind of in the background with reviewing designs, going over plans, and it has been part of the CGL team assigned to this project from the beginning. Although he's new to being on the ground here on site, but he's worked in correctional facilities in California, in Hawaii. I have no idea why he would leave Hawaii to come back here, but we're lucky to have him in that regard. And so he's just got experience in Arizona as well, working in both state and federal facilities. And so he brings that expertise to us, and I really think it's at an opportune time. So as you know, when construction kind of tamped down for 9 or 10 weeks as a result of the governor's orders, that really gave us an opportunity to really ramp up with the design change and design negotiation phase of the project. And what I mean by that is the base design had been provided by ROC and HOK, and our end users, Sheriff's Department, folks who work with the JDF, and others, had an opportunity to review those designs and really get into the nitty-gritty with respect to how their programs would work in the facilities. And as you could imagine, and this wasn't a surprise to anyone, there were suggestions and some changes that the county and our end users believed would make the jail a more effective facility. Some of those things, frankly, we believe are covered under the initial contract, so they would be the responsibility of the developer. So, yeah, and those are just perhaps things that they left off, or things that need to be tweaked a little bit. Others, are changes that are not covered in the basis of design, but we really think are important for us going forward. And so, for about the last, I'd say, 8 weeks or so, we have been in really intensive discussions with ROC and HOK in kind of putting each of those potential changes. And when I say change, I'm not describing who's responsible for paying for it. I'm just saying it's something that needs to be altered with the design as it exists, of putting those in the right bucket, if you will, county versus developer. And Jay stepped in right at a perfect time, along with his colleague, Bill Lawhorn, and they were really able to help lead the county in our discussions with ROC. And that's exactly what you want out of owner's representative, frankly, and to help us get to the point that we are at now, and that we hope to be over the next week or so, where we are finalizing who's responsible for what, and then we can decide exactly what changes we want to bring forward for approval. And so that's really what Jay's been working on to a large extent. And it was kind of good when there wasn't a whole lot of activity on the site, that he was kind of able to catch up with the on-the-ground activities as well, kind of help along with Bill lead that process. And so it's really been a good partnership so far. I think his skill set has been a positive to the project, and we look forward to continue to work with him as he goes forward. So with that, Jay, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and if you also want to introduce Freddie Williams, I think that might be appropriate at this point.
Well, thanks, James. I don't have much else to say, James. No, it's been a pleasure working with James and Carter, trying to get through some of these issues. Like James said, I have a deep background in corrections, 30 years plus, mostly with the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I retired from the Federal Bureau of Prisons in 2014 and moved into the construction management field 2 days after retiring, so I didn't get much of a retirement, but this is an awesome project. a lot of things going on, a lot of construction going on. The contractor has not stopped. They went back to work on May 7th, and since then they have made some really big strides in the construction portion. Again, not only myself working on this project, but the team behind us with CGL, to include Bill and Jared, Phil and Ferdy. We've all been working on these issues together and using each other's expertise to convey what is owned in the contract and what is possibly due to the developer. Ferdy Williams comes to us. He's been with us for about 3 weeks, and he's a new project manager on site, assisting Phil and myself, and getting him more and more involved in the critical issues that are part of this project. I wanted him to sit in on the commissioning meeting, just, in my absence, if I'm not on site or sick or something, he knows what's going on. But I think he's been a key person to fulfill the position. With that, I don't have much else to say. Looking forward to working with you guys, and a lot of the critical issues that we're working through now, I have a goal of the end of August to have these wrapped up, so that all we're doing is building this facility. Thanks.
So, Commissioner, just a couple of updates that I'd like to discuss with you. As we're wrapping up, kind of deciding what changes we think are appropriate for the site. At the same time, we've been working with Mark and Felicia, as you know, to kind of decide on a process for review and ultimate approval of any of the changes that we wish to bring forward. So I'm happy to report, and I'm thankful for the hard work that Mark and Felicia engaged in, along with Carter, to kind of come up with a proposal. And today, you will be receiving a letter, Mr. Chairman. You'll be copied on a letter from County Executive Evans to Chairwoman Bell, which kind of spells out what we think is an appropriate protocol for reviewing these changes. And by we, I mean that our collective team involving the commission has come up with the idea. And so I think it meets the two most important drivers that I think we're faced with. Number one, disclosure and full information to the stakeholders and decision makers surrounding any changes that arise with the project. And then number two, at the same time, being able to provide decisions to the developer per the terms of the contract in a timely manner. And those things, if you're not careful, can kind of pull and push against one another. And so I think we've crafted a workable solution that I think will keep all of us involved and engaged in that aspect of the process. And so you're going to be receiving a formal letter kind of spelling out our ideas on that. And there may be discussions internally with, how further reporting occurs through this committee or another that might be set up. That's kind of yet to be determined. So I thank you for continuing to push us to engage in those conversations and to have them. So that's some progress that we made over the layoff period with respect to the jail. I'd also like to apologize. I spoke with Victoria Ennis-Edwards this morning. Unfortunately, she is dealing with a personal family matter, so she's not been able to join us here today to give her normal update on the business inclusion aspects with respect to the project. But she will be here at our next committee meeting, and she is willing, if you would like, before that meeting, if you'd like a written report from her in advance of next month's meeting, Commissioner Anderson, she'd be happy to provide that, but she does send her regrets in that regard. In terms of the work at the site, you know, as you can imagine, two things had to happen. Number one, kind of re-engaging with the construction workers there around safety protocols specifically related to COVID. And so they are have enacted kind of some I'd say stricter guidelines about people visiting the site to kind of keep a good handle on who's there at all times. There's a greater emphasis on you know, sanitizing to the extent you can do so on a construction site, but you know, maintaining the appropriate distancing that will allow them to be productive, but also to complete the work. They are taking new people onto the site. Do have to have their temperatures taken before entering each morning, filling out questionnaires about their contact with people who have tested positive for COVID, and just reorientation for everyone, including all of the workers, about becoming aware of new traffic flows and other policies put in place. And of course, like everyone, workers on the site or anyone on the site is required to wear face coverings and appropriate social distancing. And so that is working out well so far. I have not heard, and I don't think, Jay, you can correct me if I'm wrong, if that is having a negative impact in terms of the workflow or the efficiencies that we're seeing. I imagine everyone's kind of getting accustomed to it by now.
Yeah, there hasn't been a real impact. It's just, if you guys can imagine a site with 130 craft on it, trying to maintain 6-foot social distancing, it's near impossible, but they are definitely giving it their all.
One of the ironic things about the governor's order is, as you know, the construction workers were not considered essential, and so that's why work on our project had to stop. However, you recall, Commissioner Anderson, that the full board approved DTE easements that would allow them to run lines to the CJC in the area around the CUP, and because utility workers were deemed to be essential, they were able to continue work on the project throughout the shutdown, which was really a positive. One of the things we weren't too worried about, but there was concern about coordination between the main construction work and the work with respect to the CUP. And so we wanted to make sure that DTE did not fall behind, such that when we needed to have power, we wouldn't be able to do that. So one of the kind of backhanded benefits of the shutdown is that it enabled DTE to kind of catch up a little bit, frankly, and make sure that they didn't fall behind. And so that will amount to a net positive on the contract as we go forward. So that's something that did not stop at all during the shutdown. And so we're pleased to report that we are on schedule with that. They should have that first line operational by the end of August, which is well within our time frame. And then they'll be able to work on that second redundant line that you all approved as well sometime after that. And so that's something that we're very happy with at this point as well.
Okay. I guess we could open it up for some questions, but I just wanted to clarify a couple things that you mentioned, James. The design changes, as most everyone here, I think, is aware of. That was one of the big problems with the other jail project, and led to its demise, I believe, because the cost was just pushed so high. And I guess I'm a little concerned that we have got change orders in front of us, but we haven't looked at or approved a policy that we're just now getting that information, or that we're going to be getting that information. So I have to express a concern that we're looking at some, the change orders that are likely to be proposed after the fact, without the policy having been in place. Like I said, that's a little concerning to me.
If I could say one thing, Commissioner Anderson, I mean, the only changes that have been presented to you so far are ones that the full commission approved, and that relates to the change with respect to the cup. And so there's not changes before you that you'll be at that will come before the policy is set in place. And so I just want to be clear.
So we haven't approved any then?
You have, no, there's not been any, no, that's 100% right. We have
I'm
not.
not talking about the commission, I'm talking about no one from the administration.
No, that is 100% correct. We have not approved change orders at all. What we are doing, though, is discussing and determining what changes are the responsibility of the county, what changes are the responsibility of the developer. I'm although we don't know exactly the details of what will be coming before the commission, they've not been decided, or we have not committed the county to anything at this point. I want to be entirely clear about that.
Okay. I appreciate that clarification. So I'm going to open it up to, unless you have something else that you wanted to present right this time, I'm going to open it up for
Sure.
commissioners on the committee. And I can't see the raised hands because I can't see all of the, everyone that's online right now for some reason. So I would, Madam Clerk, can you see anyone that has their hand raised?
Yeah, nobody has their hand raised. Right. Well, Mark Abel has his hand raised now.
Okay. Mark, would you like to add your comments right now or questions?
Yeah, I was going to defer to commissioners first, but since there are no hands raised, James, thank you. And through the chair, James, thank you for your update. You had mentioned that there's going to be a report submitted for the next meeting. What I'd really like is if you can incorporate a few.
Mark, if I could, I should have asked you at the very beginning, because people are tuning, maybe a few people tuning in, and for the record, if you would give us your name and title.
Yeah, my apologies, Mr. Chairman. Mark Abbo, Chief Fiscal Advisor for the Wayne County Commission.
Thank you. Proceed.
So, James, you had mentioned that there's going to be a report next month, and so I just wanted to mention a couple things that I would appreciate that you incorporated into the report. We know that, there was an absolute delay in the construction, but could you translate that into what the ultimate delay will be in the completion date of the project? Because one of the benefits of the new jail was efficiencies associated or in regards to what we're now doing. And so a day-by-day delay will delay the benefit of those efficiencies. And so I see that as a cost matter. So I'm hoping that there wasn't much of a delay, that we'll be able to make it up. But if we could translate that into what the completion date, the new completion date might be.
I appreciate that, Mark. That's one of my questions that I have too, a new completion date estimated. I know it'll be an estimate.
The other one is last year, the commission approved the acquisition of the parking lot rather than having ROC do it. We were going to take complete control over it. I believe $28 million was sent to the Capital Projects Fund for that. Maybe you can give us a status update on what the intentions are of the administration regarding that, and what if the plans have been finalized regarding us taking control of that parking lot. And then the only other item is I know that in the past you've provided a template that shows the original budget modifications or costs completed to date, and what the anticipated costs are at this point in time, so that we can look at the project in its totality, incorporating costs that may be absorbed by Rock versus additional costs that may be absorbed by the county. And I was wondering if you would be able to update that template as well.
So yeah, so I'll take them in reverse order. Thank you for the questions, Mark. So the budget template that you described is one of the things I was referring to and saying that we're kind of playing some catch up with now. And so prior to our next meeting of this committee, we will have a written update for you.
I appreciate that. Thank you, James.
With respect to the parking, we continue to have discussions on that. Frankly, it is kind of gotten into a more complicated discussion given the budget issues that we are facing as a result of this pandemic. And so there will be a presentation made to you about our plans for covering the shortfall that we have in this fiscal year, and frankly, the use of the parking funds that have been set aside at the end of last calendar are part of that discussion. And so we will be updating you on that, Mark. When we last spoke about this, in the first month of the year or so, whenever our last committee meeting was, we had no idea that we would be here. And so that is now part of a larger discussion that we will be having. So you can expect an update on that when the CFO comes back before the commission to describe his plan for our budget issues.
Understood. Thank you.
And in terms of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask for clarification of what you're saying. When are you saying that we're going to receive that information, the committee?
So it will be at about the same time that the full commission hears from the CFO on his budget for the remainder of this fiscal year and for the remainder of this fiscal year. And
when should we anticipate that?
My understanding is that it will be that he's had conversations with Chairwoman Bell, and so I don't want to speak out of school, but my understanding is that sometime towards the end of July or end of June or into July, but I don't know the particulars of the discussions that they've had lately.
Okay. All right.
And so the last point was with respect to the delay, and we are still kind of working through that. Here's the most up-to-date information that we've gotten from Barton Malow, the general contractor, as well as from Rock, is that they are projecting no more than a 1 day for 1 day delay to the project. And so we were off site for about 9 weeks or so, and they think that that's the sort of delay that they're anticipating as of right now. And their hope is that that can be kind of made up as we go along, if we can kind of make progress, during the sunny season here. Our hope is that we can continue to shrink that time frame. I guess there's at least two kind of wild cards that it's difficult to predict at this point. The most difficult being, God willing, there's not a reemergence of the virus such that causes us to further put our society on hold. We'll just have to wait and see to that, and we hope for the best, obviously. The second, though, and this kind of comes up related to the first, in that there's subcontractors and vendors from across the country who are working on on the project, and we are still in communication with them, or Rock and Barton Malow are still in communication with them to determine whether, the flow of equipment, supplies, and other work product outside of the direct chain on site will impact our schedule. At this point, they don't believe so, but it's something they're continuing to monitor, Mark. And so as we get more information, we'll share it with you. But that's the best information that we have right now. Jay, anything you'd like to add on that?
I appreciate that, James. I mean, if we could hold it to a day for day, because I understand, when you're dealing with the different trades and having them, their workflows kind of meld together and
Right.
coordinate. sometimes mobilization and demobilization can be very problematic. So if we can hold it to a day-to-day, I think that that would be rather significant.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely correct, James. It did take them probably a week to a week and a half to ramp up for staffing because they were trying to get all the sanitary stations and all their procedures in place before they fully ramped up out here. And you are absolutely correct on the outside suppliers and vendors. So that's still an open issue there.
So you're saying that, Jay, you're saying that that could potentially still be a outlying issue as far as delay in the project?
It possibly could be. It could be more than just a day-to-day. They're stating day-to-day, but I mean, it's just like us. You go down to the store and they're out of product. And so now they got to go back to their vendors to get more product. So we're hoping as far as like precast panels, precast cells, that type of stuff, that we're still in the front line of orders for those, but Barton Mallow and Rock are still working towards finalizing that.
And
Jim,
to that
go ahead.
point, that's why, frankly, the work that Mark and Felicia were willing to do with us on kind of a process for any change orders is even more important, because not only are we kind of, racing the deadlines that we find in the contract, but we're kind of racing other projects. And we were always, as you well know, in competition with other projects, but primarily that was for workers, but now we continue to be in competition for workers, but also for, the attention of our subs and other vendors. And so that's another reason why we're so grateful for the work that commission staff was able.
I was asked this question because of the changes, I guess, in the number of prisoners that we have in our jail right now, and the tendency, I think, that people are looking at incarcerating less, and I believe this has been addressed in the past, but I'll ask it again, that whether or not at this point in the project, is there any consideration, or could there be any consideration to reduce the number of cells that we're going to have?
So I'll say this: the design and the bones of the structure has been completed for the most part. The programming within the facility and how people are spaced and how people are moved around are issues that are somewhat more fluid. One of the things that I will tell you, and this should have been in the main part of my report, and thank you for the opportunity to be reminded of it, is that we are taking a look at, as we speak, any changes that we can make, and it's difficult because we're kind of only able to do things on the margins with respect to courthouse and jail in light of COVID-19. So there are kind of best practices that courts are using to keep jurors, court staff, and other members of the public safe. That is happening within the jail community as well. And so we are looking at some minor changes that we can do in light of COVID. But I will tell you, Commissioner, that it is when prior to COVID, our jail population was upward towards a census of 1,600 people, which was a reduction from in the years just prior to that. It's went down as low as 800 at times, and it's coming back up in some respects. And that's part of that is just kind of the cycle of seasons and the like. And so I just raised that to say that it is very, very difficult to kind of handicap where your numbers are going to end up. And so I think what we have done is to make the most intelligent estimate that we possibly could at the design stage for the project, to have that number vetted and to build around it. And we're thankfully, pretty far down the road in that respect. The good thing though is that we have some flexibility with how we assign programming, how we place people within the facility, and that's good because if you look at what facilities across the country, federal, state, local, are dealing with now, it's spacing issues with respect to the inmates, and so I'm frankly glad that we have hopefully the opportunity to keep people who are there in as safe a possible environment as possible. And so I guess that's my answer. That is been informed as of late by what we've been experiencing with COVID. But as you well know, Commissioner, it's similar to the answer that we've been having for 6 months to a year. That we designed it with the best information that we have. We continue to build it, and we believe that long term we are in the best possible position to protect the county.
I do recall that there was reprogramming, if you want to call it that, and some additional needs that were described to us, whether it was for the Indigent Defender's Office to be able to have a place to meet with their clients, and I think that is probably something you're making allowances for now in the project, and I also have heard many complaints over the years that some of our police agencies, our police departments in the county-wide, that the cost of or the inability to house one of their prisoners or some of their prisoners rather than send them to Isabel County or some other location, maybe we'll have the additional space that can, accommodate that, because countywide, of course, we're paying the jail tax, and one of the complaints I heard many times from locals is that we're paying for that tax, and then we have to actually contract with an outstate jail to hold prisoners, so hopefully that'll be able to absorb some of that load from that we haven't been able to do in the past, and do it in a competitively priced way. But I don't know. I think that that's been addressed in the past, but I was asked that question. I thought I wanted to throw it out there to get a response if anything had changed. I've got a few others. I appreciate Mark Abo bringing up some of them. He took a few of my questions. About negotiating on the parking lot, how that is, and you're saying that has not been resolved yet. It's continuing. And the current status of the parking needs for the overall project. I know we talked about that in the past, but is there anything new on that? Because I know at one time you had responded about whether or not we're looking at adding courts on the site, which leads to another question. Have we made any, has there been any changes to that? Any additional discussions taking place on that?
Yeah, so 2 points. There's nothing new to report with respect to the parking plans that we have on site. In fact, we are re-engaging our parking task force internally over the next week to kind of address some of these issues. I'll just be perfectly honest with you. The thing that's been first on our priority is kind of going through some of these design issues that I described earlier. And so as we kind of put some of those things to bed, we're opening up on other issues. With respect to, and I think what you're referring to is the Civil Justice Center, is that correct,
Yes.
Commissioner? So, you know, the, 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 in light of our budget issues and the role that they have played in demanding our time and looking at how we spend our resources, we have not had further discussions, substantive discussions, since the outbreak of COVID on plans with respect to a civil facility. And so as those discussions advance over the next, months or so, I don't want to handicap kind of what an eventual, proposal might look like or decision, but I will tell you that has not been our focus for the last 4 months or so.
Okay. So really nothing further has been discussed about that. Is that
That's
what you're
correct.
saying?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Also, are we back at full capacity right now with workers on the site? Because we received, and other commissioners on the committee, if you looked at your email last night, we finally got an updated report. And I haven't had a chance to go through that yet myself. I think it came in around 7:30, 8 o'clock last night. And I don't know if you can summarize about the number of workers that are we back at full capacity, or if Jay wants to touch on that.
Mike, you want me to, James?
Go ahead, Jay.
Oh, okay. I would say they're running probably about 80% capacity. We're probably 130 craft on site averaging per day. The rock development folks are not on site. They are still restricted by their company policy. Subcontractor folks seem to be, like I say, I would say 80 to 90% we're probably at for craft.
Okay. As far as the delay on completion, when do you think you might have an estimate on what that might be? I know I heard earlier you mentioned 1 day for each day of the shutdown, that we're trying to hold to that. Any estimate right now, roughly when that would be? A second part to that would be how that's going to affect the lease agreements with Rock, as far as the other facilities that they were going to get as part of this deal, or actually that they were buying. We've got those sort of pushing us along to the occupancy that we have there. Is that going to have to be renegotiated, or is it? Do we know what the impact?
So I guess a few things. I would say no, that we aren't anywhere close to having any sort of schedule impact that would affect our that outside completion date. If we were going to get to that, though, there would be even further discussions because the delay was caused by a force majeure, and so we had no control over it. Rock had no control over it, and so if we were going to look at kind of pushing that outside back, we'd have to have some further discussions. But as a practical matter, Commissioner, we're nowhere close to that.
Okay.
I hesitate to be able to say anything more beyond what I have about the kind of 1-to-1, 2 month delay, two and a half month delay that in terms of the information that we have right now. What I can commit, though, is that as we engage further with the subs and others kind of down the line and the vendors, and as they report to us and we see, problems with, supplies, getting them, I would, this committee will be the first to know. And so, for instance, Jay would be able to say better, but, as we look, 4 months from now, if there's a shipment of whatever widgets, we'll just say that we're going to need to continue the project and stay on task. If for whatever reason we have a much greater delay in getting that, and we think it's related to the delay that we had, we will let you know, and we'll let you know the impact to our completion schedule. But I would, just be honest with you and tell you at this point, we just have not seen that, and we just don't have evidence of such. And so we've been kind of lucky in that regard, and we anticipate that if things continue to go smoothly, we're not going to have a problem at all.
Okay, last question I have, I believe, is the, well, no, I actually have a couple. Do we have any new update as far as environmental costs? Because I know we were, as I recall, that it was as we're going along and going into the ground, that's when we find something. And have there been any, and where is that budget at right now?
Yeah, well, so if you, before I say something wrong, if you'll allow me to give you an updated template on exactly the numbers for that budget
Okay.
for our next month meeting, I would appreciate that. What I will tell you is that we don't have any new information at this point regarding things that we've discovered. Jay or Carter, is there anything that you would like to add to that aspect of things?
I don't have anything else to add. Well, maybe one thing, James, and it maybe involves deeper discussion amongst the county, but the DTE decommissioning, I don't know how that's handled as far as environmental costs.
Yeah. So what Jay is referring to is there's a substation on the property, as I think you may know, Commissioner Anderson, that is currently in use and is being used. It's a City of Detroit, former City of Detroit facility that is coming under the control of DTE if it hasn't already, and it will. It currently is being used to power buildings downtown. I believe Detroit Receiving Hospital and maybe one other location at least. And so one of the things that the city has committed to doing, and we're working through a schedule for them, is to decommission that portion of the property so that it can be used in furtherance of of our project. And so one of the things Jay is referring to is the environmental impact of that property, but that is an unknown at this point, Commissioner. And so we will know more once the site is decommissioned.
Okay, so it's going to be decommissioned, and then we will be able to use that property. And I don't have a sense of how big the property is, but so we'll be able to use it, reclaim it.
That might be something that we use for parking potentially.
Right.
And so that has not been decided yet, but it is something that we're kicking around.
Any idea roughly what the size of that piece of property is?
I don't offhand. Is there someone, Carter, do you have an idea?
I think it's a couple hundred square feet.
Okay.
When we've talked about using it for parking, they've said maybe 40 spaces could be allocated that way if that's how we choose to use it.
Okay, thank you. The other thing was, have all the bid packages, I don't believe they've been let because of the delay that we had, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we did get. I mean, the work didn't completely stop. And so number one, let me ask it this way. No, all the bid packages have not been let.
Okay.
There's a slowdown, frankly, Commissioner, based on the speed with which we were moving through things prior to the outbreak. And so we're still in that process. And that's something that Victoria will be able to give you an update in her written report to you.
Hopefully by the next meeting. Okay.
Well in advance of the next meeting. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And the last thing is that I have is whether or not, and I understand the concerns about safety and transmission of COVID-19, about a tour. Do you think that would be possible if enough of the members of the committee are interested? Maybe right after the 4th of July or something like that. I think that's possible.
Jay, can you speak to that at all?
I can talk to Rock and Barton Mallow. They are really limiting the people. We all go through a safety orientation again, along with a COVID orientation, and those are held weekly. I can speak with them, or better yet, Commissioner, if you could put a request through James and then James through us, and then we can kind of forward that through Rock and your anticipated date and number of possible participants. That way they see it's coming from you and not from just myself on site.
I'd be happy to, I'll ask Tim, I think he's online, Tim Johnson, for the commission, on behalf of the commission and on behalf of the committee, to be in contact with them and see if it might be possible, and maybe within sometime after the 4th of July. Tim, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Commissioner. I'll follow up.
All right, thank you. And that's all I have. Any other questions from other commissioners or committee members?
Commissioner Varga has her hand raised.
Okay, Commissioner Varga. You're muted right now. Oh, you're back on mute. There you go. Commissioner Varga.
Thank you. You covered a lot of it while I was waiting to ask my questions. So thank you. Save me the time. I just want to chime in. There will be a time when the other counties around us are going to need space, because all the other counties right now halted their jail construction. And I know one of them, I'm not sure which one, was going to build a new jail but stopped. So I'm not worried about how big ours is going to be. In fact, leaving it the way it is, I think it's a great idea, because we will be able to rent ours out or have other uses for it too. So, and we don't have to put our inmates on top of each other just in case there is something, God forbid, there's another wave of this or something different. So I'm okay with leaving it. We've already set the budget for this one, and but I think that it would be a mistake to try to downsize at this time, even if you could. So that was my 2 cents. I personally would prefer to wait to go on a tour until after September to see how things are going. I don't want to add to this, just me personally, don't want to add to the strain of what they're going on right now with the workers being screened and all of that too. They would have to screen us too. So you all can go, but I'm going to wait until maybe a little bit later on to go see it, and it will have more of a completion by then as well. So I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. And Mr. Chair, you asked some really good questions, and Mark covered the other part. So that's what I get for being silent for so long, but it's all good. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Maybe we can ask Tim Johnson to maybe he can do just a little survey among members to see which might work better for them. And then we also might, when we talk to Jay or Barton Mallow or someone on the project, find out what would be best, the timing of what's going to be happening in July and August, and whether or not September would even be a better time to go. I'm open to that, but the request was made, and I will, Tim, I'll ask you to maybe do a survey among members of the committee, if you don't mind, and other commissioners as well.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment. Jay Shandor, CGL.
Yes.
It doesn't hold you guys back from doing a drive-by. You can see the progress, and really it's a lot of exterior progress and structural steel, metal decks. If you were to come out to the site, you'd see open floors, open deck pours. You're not going to see any kind of space as far as the courts or cells or anything like that. It's just open bay areas currently, and I don't think you're going to get a grasp for you driving by. You'll get a grasp for the magnitude and the size of the project, but as far as interior finishes and stuff, they're just open floors right now, and starting some steel stud framing and overhead piping. So there's a lot of stairs to climb. I'll tell you that for getting
Well,
to
maybe-
access. Yeah.
I appreciate that, and maybe a suggestion of Commissioner Varga is correct that we might have something more to look at by that time, by
Absolutely.
September.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one more comment. This is Mark Abbo again.
Yes, Mark.
I know that we have significant restrictions in the uses of the CARES grant money, but James, I'm just going to assume that the administration is looking that if there are any losses incurred as a result of the delay of the jail project, to the extent that they could be allocated and we could be reimbursed through that CARES grant, may be appropriate.
Oh, excellent point, Mark. As you know, we've engaged outside counsel to help us with navigating CARES Act in all aspects of our county finances and the like. And the CJC is a subgroup of that, and looking at what we can use, and not just in terms of even covering losses, but in terms of any changes that we might be able to make that, are a direct response to CARES, to COVID-19, and protecting inmates and employees from.
My comment was really kind of confirming my understanding, James, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other commissioners that and committee members that have questions? Any other member of the committee having questions? If there's not any, Madam Clerk, do we have any comments, or do we have any emails or any communication from anyone?
Mark Abbo has his hand raised.
I spoke. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. And I guess I can open it up to anyone out there from the public that has any questions. I know that's a little further technically along on the agenda, but I'll do it one more time. But anyway, Madam Clerk, if you would move us along on the agenda. Thank you, James, and everyone for being online this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
E, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
Are there any such other matters that any member wants to bring up of the committee? Are there any such other matters? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, the next item on the agenda.
Public comments.
Is there anyone from the public that's on the call that wishes to ask a question or has a comment? Anyone from the public wishing to make a comment or ask a question? Last call. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to make a comment or ask a question regarding what we've discussed today or anything else? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you'd move us along to the next item on the agenda.
Adjournment.
Varga moves to adjourn.
Support. Marecki. Marecki. Okay. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for being here today. We'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you. Thank you, James, and everyone else. Jay,
Thank you.
Thanks.
thank you.